United States, Canada,
Mexico,
Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic, Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, 2, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, and Ecuador, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica, Belize, Nicaragua, Bermuda, Bahamas, Tobacco, San Juan, Paraguay, Uruguay, Suriname, and French Guiana, Barbados, and Guam, Norway, and Sweden, and Iceland, and Finland, and Germany, now in one piece, Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey, and Greece, Poland, Romania, Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Cyprus, Iraq, and Iran, there, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, both Yemen, Kuwait, and Bahrain, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Portugal, France, England, Denmark, and Spain.
Oh, win so much, you may even get...
You know, it's so funny to me that I have people who are coming on my channel just to tell me how great these tariffs are working, quote unquote working. And they're also so quick to tell me, oh yeah, well, China's falling apart. Everything's going wrong in China. China's falling apart. The tariffs are working. They're already working. They're bringing all these jobs back. And I'm like, where the fuck are y'all getting your news from? Like, what are you smoking? Where are you getting your news from? And I won't presume to believe that the Dow Jones alone or the S&P 500 or the Russell, I won't claim that those by themselves represent the entirety of the stock market, nor will I claim that they represent Main Street, because as you know, they don't. They represent the stock market at large. They represent a handful of companies that have been chosen. They're indexes. They represent the strength of some of our largest companies: Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, and so forth and so on. And then you also factor in, some of the other companies that are listed there. And basically all the Dow Jones, the Russell, and the, the S&P 500, what they do is they give us an overall feeling of market sentiment. It's just like you go to the doctor and he takes a thermometer, he sticks it in your ass. And the reason why he sticks it in your ass instead of in your mouth is because your saliva might cause the thermometer not to give it an accurate reading. It's always been claimed that one of those anal thermometers, they give you a way better reading if you're a doctor because the internal organs are directly what gets measured. But the thing about it is all these indexes are some people would say barometers, but you could say thermometer. They're basically measuring market sentiment. Trump came into office. Everybody was excited. The Dow rallied to 45,000, more than 45,000. I thought it was on its way to 50,000. Tesla was at its highest. Tesla was damn near $500, and that's just Tesla. And since Trump actually got into office, we've been staring at his post-tariff talk. We've been staring at a Dow that can't steadily maintain 40,000 points. So the reality is any person who objectively thinks, or any person who's an objective thinker or an objective journalist, any of those people would definitely be like, you know what? I think this tariff thing is a bad idea. And I'm not going to harp on this because I could repeat myself a million times. It wouldn't really matter. But China is a country of 1.4 billion people. China got to where it is now because they leveraged cheap labor. And I'm not going to say slave labor because slave labor doesn't have a right not to work. Those people over there, they have a right not to do the work, but they choose to do the factory work. That's not a slave. Slaves are what America had when they enslaved Africans that were shipped to America and never actually paid them what's called reparations. Now, I'd like to just mention all those people who Bernie Madoff scammed, They got their money back. It took some time, but the government made sure they got all their money back. The slaves from, the slavery days of America, they never got their reparations. They never did. Their children never did. And they continued to live the legacy of income inequality, wealth inequality, and so forth and so on. So I just want to point that out. But that's neither here nor there. I'm talking about this Dow. The Dow is under 40,000. It's 38,170 right now. It is 4:56, so the markets are closed. The Dow dropped more than 950 points as Trump was ripping Fed Chair Powell, reigniting investor worries. Now, here's the thing. Now, any of these people want to come on my channel and, because, a lot of these people are basically MAGA cultists these people are not objective thinkers. These are not real Republicans. And some people have even reminded me that I pointed it out. It's like, there's a difference between a real Republican and what we have now. These people are like these MAGA Republican cultists and whatnot. And there's a big difference. A lot of the Republicans are disgusted with Trump, but the problem is right now they don't have the power to do anything about it because the MAGA cultists are basically keeping them in line. But here's the thing. A lot of these people, they're ashamed to be called Democrats. They're ashamed to be called Republicans. Everybody wants to be called an independent now. That should tell you that you got a problem in this country. The mere fact that you have so many people who just don't even want to be associated with either major political party, that should tell you something. But this whole idea of tariffs was never going to work. China's got 1.4 billion people. India has 1.4 billion people. It appeared to me that what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut ties with China and move all the production to India. Well, guess what? If you're going to India because you want to exploit their cheap labor, then all you're going to do is you're going to make another China out of India. That's all you're going to do. You're going to pump money into India, and India is going to become what China is now. And once India, because what is it? There's I think it's The Gambler, where John Goodman explains what fuck you money is. Fuck you money is when you have enough money where you can literally say, fuck you, I ain't got to do nothing you tell me, and you could go F off. And the bottom line is, China's got fuck you money. And these people who come on my channel with this stupid nonsense, they don't seem to understand China's got that fuck you money. And once they got that amount of money, it's like, we ain't got to do nothing you say. We'll unwind these bonds when we get ready to, and we ain't doing nothing you tell us to. And these people are under I don't, first of all, I'm trying to understand where they get their news from, because I watch China Observer. I watch some of these YouTube channels that are vaguely anti-China. And I also have friends still in China living there. And there's like a huge discrepancy between what I see, how much money I see them spending, the jobs that they have, and the quality of life that they're living now as compared to like 2001 versus what you're seeing on YouTube. Now, keep in mind, TikTok, China uses TikTok as a propaganda machine. That's one of the reasons why I always said we should have gotten rid of TikTok years ago. And anybody who's on my channel knows that I've been saying exactly that. We still haven't gotten rid of TikTok. So if it was true that TikTok is a propaganda machine, and I've been saying for years, let's get rid of this shit, then who are the people that are keeping it active in America? Like, they can go anywhere else with TikTok. I could give a shit if they've got every last young girl dancing their ass off all throughout Europe, all throughout Southeast Asia. I could care less. But what I see here in America is it's turning American kids into morons and zombies. And I've been saying this for years. Get rid of TikTok. Shut it down! They don't do it. So if they're getting the information from TikTok, then as far as I'm concerned, it's unreliable. It's propaganda. If they're getting their information from these channels like China Observer, it's still unreliable, because for all I know that these are disaffected Taiwanese citizens who speak Chinese. So yeah, they're really good for, translating. But for the most part, they may not be telling exactly what's going on there because the PRC is very, very hush-hush about letting information go out. Bottom line is this: regardless what you think is going on over there, since you're not taking no trips over there and you don't travel, most of you, regardless what you think is going on over there, what I do see is what's going on here. That's what I see. Dow's at 38,170 right now. Layoffs are continuing. Repossessions of property are continuing. The housing, now Trump said when I get it, oh yeah, this housing market's too high. I'm going to fix the housing market. You're going to get tired of winning. Housing market is still unaffordable. Now, in fairness, I don't expect him to solve the housing market in 4 or 5 months. I don't expect that at all. But I just want to remind you that the housing market's still a mess. I'm looking at gas prices as I was coming home. I just peeked over at Mobile. Every single price, from regular unleaded to middle grade to premium unleaded, every single price over $3.50. Now, I do know that regular unleaded in some of these gas stations is below $2.60. As far as I'm concerned, until premium unleaded is below $2, gas is high. See, what the Trump MAGA supporters don't want is they don't want you using real numbers, because if you start using objective numbers and you start looking at exactly where things were when he came in, Dow 45,000, gas prices above $3. When you start looking at those numbers, when you start looking at houses above $500,000, when you have these objective numbers and then they come on the news, they start talking about it, it's like, wait a minute, he said he's going to fix all this shit. This shit is still not fixed. They don't like that because it lets you point to their bullshit and it causes cognitive dissonance. It actually causes them physical, mental pain. They can't talk back and strike back fast enough because there's too many people saying it. MSNBC and CNN, they're being given ammo by the Trump administration right now. But just to move on really quickly, because I've said all this before, the Federal Reserve, I do kind of give Trump credit for finally taking on the Federal Reserve. I haven't seen anybody take on the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell, as far as I'm concerned, the Congress is supposed to have the power of the purse. The Federal Reserve was supposed to be a temporary agency that was set up mostly because of what happened during the Great Depression. But I would argue that if Congress had properly regulated, I don't think the Great Depression would have happened. But if you really look back at the Great Depression, what happened during the Great Depression? You had people who were speculating. You had people borrowing money that they couldn't afford to pay back. And ultimately, it all came to a head when you started having margin calls and they were demanding that these people bring that money and pay it back. Well, what's happening right now? We've got people borrowing more money than they should have because they're trying to get some Gucci, Prada, Femi, all that bullshit. I was looking up, what is it called? A Birkin bag? What was that thing? And I was looking at the price of these bags, and I'm like, you mean to tell me that people are stupid enough, if they're not billionaires or millionaires, you mean to tell me people are stupid enough to buy some shit like that's like several $1,000s for a handbag? $100,000 for a Birkin bag? Are you kidding me? So you got these people. Now listen, if you're a millionaire or billionaire, go out and buy it. I could care less. You're helping keep these companies alive. But when you're one of these poor people or plebeian who's trying to convince everybody that they're wealthy when they're not, and they're spending this kind of money and they're spending it on credit cards, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, you deserve it when that repo man shows up to take that bag from you. As far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, when the repo man pulls up and he puts your Range Rover on stilts and he puts that thing on that truck, yeah, you deserve it because you never should have had it in the first place. And that's one of the things that nobody's willing to say about the housing crisis. There's a lot of people who bought houses that they never should have been allowed to buy. They had fake loans. They themselves wrote in fraudulent information. They themselves wrote in lies, no income, no job, no asset verification, lies. The bankers pushed the paperwork. The mortgage lenders got paid because they get worked on commission. So The only reason why all of this bullshit is possible is because the Federal Reserve had interest rates so low. They had 0% interest rates. It was called ZIRP, ZIRP, 0% interest rates. Now, Federal Reserve got, jumped on because of how much inflation they created. So now they had to raise interest rates. The interest rates are at a certain point, they're pretty high. It looks like the Federal Reserve doesn't want to keep raising interest rates. And this is something I've talked about before. They can't raise interest rates because at a certain point, that $36 trillion of national debt becomes unpayable. They can't raise interest rates beyond a certain point. So they've put themselves in a corner. It's really not that much different than what happens in your household. If you have credit cards and you max out your credit cards, and you have to suddenly start paying back your credit cards, they may cut off your balance entirely and say, yeah, you know what, we're not giving you any more credit, and you got to pay us back first. Before we can even talk about giving you any more credit, you got to pay us back first. What happens? You got the credit cards, but you can't use them, so now you got to start paying them back. But the interest rates are so high that you might not even be able to do that. Well, that's pretty much where America is right now. But see, where I deviate from what these people keep on coming on my channel talking this nonsense about how well the tariffs work, the tariffs are not working. There's not even enough time to build factories. We're talking about factories take years to bring back to America. There may be pledges, but keep in mind, it takes like a decade to build some of these factories. And most of these businesses and companies, they'll tell Trump, oh yeah, okay, you win, sir. We capitulate. They'll bow down to him because they know that he only got like 4 years in office. What is it, 4.5 years? Yeah, they'll bow down to him now. That's like saying, oh yeah, I'll pay you your money and everything. Yeah, no problem. And then you just wait until this person dies or the person disappears and then be like, yeah, I'm keeping that money. Fuck that. I ain't paying him nothing. So no, you're in a situation right here. These foreign companies, they're telling you they're lying to your face, and prices are set to go up in 90 days. Now, granted, we have less than 90 days now. Once that hits, then you'll really get to see what's what. That's the reason I ran out and bought my air conditioners. Anything that I felt that I wanted, that I thought that it was a possibility the price could go up, I was like, no, I'm going to buy that now. Maybe that was a ploy to get people to shop. That's what they did with toilet paper during COVID. They tried to convince you that your booty was going to be running with shit. So they say, oh, you got to go buy toilet paper. Everybody's running around looking for toilet paper. Toilet paper prices went through the roof. Maybe it's a ploy. I don't know. Maybe it's like bottled water. They always try to get you to buy bottled water just to buy bottled water. Oh, well, there could be a terrorist attack. Oh, there could be a tsunami. Oh, there could be an earthquake. I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to have bottled water around. I'm just saying, all of a sudden, when they start trying to convince you that it's time that you need to go out and buy something, usually nothing's going to happen. But we'll see, because it's coming. Bottom line is, Dow dropped 950 points. So what does it say? Stocks fell again on Monday as President Donald Trump ramped up his attacks on Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Now, the one thing I got to say about Jerome Powell, nobody has challenged this guy. This guy, no entity besides the Congress should have the power to set interest rates. And the interesting thing to me about that is, how do you have a person who is appointed but can't be fired? It's like you'd have to literally resign or get impeached to be fired. And that bothers me because that tells me that you've got a government within a government, basically. That tells me all of the stuff that the libertarians from Ron Paul to Rand Paul, all these libertarians who are all over the internet, what they've been saying about the Federal Reserve, you even saw that movie Zeitgeist, some 13-year-old kid threw that movie together and had everybody's brains all fucked up over 9/11. As far as I'm concerned, it's like, yeah, the Federal Reserve really does need to be looked at. Now, some people used to say audit the Fed. That was a Ron Paul thing. And the reality is, even if you audit the Fed, no matter how much money you find, even if they have money left over, it just goes right back into the federal government. So it doesn't really matter. What they want is the abolishment of the Federal Reserve. And I totally understand what they're talking about. You can't have free trade, and you can't have normal markets if you're dealing with people who are literally manipulating the price of the money. So for all these people jumping up on my channel, oh yeah, China doing great, America's bringing back factories already, the tariffs work. Yeah, I just want to remind you the dollar's down. So what did they say? Did they say anything about that? It says the S&P 500 shed 2.36% and ended at 5,158. The NASDAQ lost 2.55% to settle at 15,870. In a Truth Social post, Trump claimed that the economy would slow unless Powell, who he referred to as Mr. Too Late, a major loser. Mr. Too Late, he's a major loser. Lowered interest rates immediately. Now, I want you to think about this real quick. How did we get into the situation that we got into with the interest rates being too low and inflation being too high? How did we get into that situation? Federal Reserve lowered interest rates, and then when they kept us home from COVID, they started handing out paychecks to people just to stop us from killing each other and just to stop us from being out there in the street trying to rob people for bread. That's the real Civil War scenario, because let me tell you something. I would never want to see it, and I wouldn't, because I played those Fallout games, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, where basically in order just to eat, you got to go and rob and loot houses. And I would never, ever want to see that. But they were literally paying us just so that we wouldn't do none of that shit. So we wouldn't break into Walgreens. So we wouldn't break into Key Food. So we wouldn't break into Costco. They were paying us just trying to keep us pacified. And that's what it came down to. I don't want to see a situation where I got to load up this Desert Eagle just to go out and get some hamburgers. I don't want to see that situation. I don't. So in the long run, okay, listen. First of all, y'all created this situation, but now you've put us into a situation where we're going to go even deeper into debt just because you created this situation. So we are stuck in a loop. I guess it would be a negative feedback loop because we keep losing. So we're stuck in a loop. What is this? Trump also called for the Fed to lower rates, even hinting at Powell's termination. First of all, as far as I know, the president doesn't have the power to terminate Jerome Powell. He's saying that, but he can't do it. It says something the White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said the president's team was studying. Guess what? Let me tell you something, Trump. You might not ever hear my voice. There might be, Secret Service agents listening to this. My bottom line is this. Be careful going up against the Federal Reserve, because I seem to remember that there was a president named John F. Kennedy, and he tried to go up against the CIA. And that didn't turn out too well for John F. Kennedy. So I would suggest that if you're going to go up against the Federal Reserve, the dollar was also under pressure, hitting a 3-year low as the threats ramped up. Gold, meanwhile, soared to record highs above 3,400 per ounce. So you know what's funny? This really is making people like Peter Schiff, who have always been talking about gold, people like Peter Schiff and these Republican dudes and these libertarian dudes who've always been on Fox News trying to sell you gold, like William Devane and all them guys. This makes them look like they knew what was coming all along. But in my opinion, what's happening ultimately, and I want you to think about this, you don't hear Trump talking about cryptocurrency lately, do you? You don't hear him talking that stupid nonsense about putting money into Bitcoin reserves and Ethereum reserves and all that. You don't hear none of that talk. Notice that gold prices have shot up. Now, I always expected gold prices to shoot up because I always figured that countries and governments were going to put their money into gold. They were like Nayib Bukele down there locking up all them people in El Salvador, and we're trying to send criminals down there to El Salvador. Nayib Bukele was one of the first people to risk his country's money in Bitcoin. Okay, that gamble worked out for him. It went from he got in like 50, 55, and it went to like 100. The problem is they're in a situation where if they were to sell it, they'd miss out if it ever went higher. But gold is one of those assets where these countries, these big corporations, they'll put their money into gold and they'll hold gold, because even though you're not going to get rich, what it actually does is it does hold the value of your currency, whatever your money that you put into that gold is. So this is really making Peter Schiff look like he's goddamn profit. One of the things that is becoming very clear is the underlying tension between the Fed and the administration, said Michael Green. We are effectively in a replay of COVID. The uncertainty has meaningfully disrupted trade. I think most people anticipate that there will be some form of stimulus that ultimately emerges to offset the effects of the tariff. Stimulus? Really? Have we not learned our lesson from printing checks in order to pay people off? Have we not learned our lesson? That's how we ended up this deep in debt in the first place, with the stimulus. But that's where we are. So we'll see what happens. It says lack of progress on trade. Investor confidence was also dented by a lack of progress on global trade. If anything, tensions seem to increase with China, with the country warning other nations not to strike any deal with the U.S. that would hurt Beijing. So now the question is, who do you think these third world countries, these developing countries, who do you think that they're really going to listen to? You think they're going to listen to America, or you think they're going to listen to China? And I will tell you, the closer these countries are to being near China, more likely they're going to listen to China. The S&P 500 is down 9% since April 2nd, when Trump announced a raft of levies on imports from other countries. The NASDAQ has lost nearly 10% in that time, and the Dow has fallen 9.6%. Now, I've already said this many times. I'm not really worried about the Dow and the S&P 500. I'm not really worried about those, because over time, they will go up. The Dow eventually, I don't know when, it'll be 50,000. But that might come after Trump is long gone. That might come with the next president. There may be a rally for the next president, whoever that is, and the Dow might go up to 50,000. Someday the Dow will be 60,000. Maybe in the next 10 years, maybe the Dow will be $70,000 or $80,000. Or I should say 80,000 points. I don't know. Maybe it'll get there, but maybe it won't get there within the next 4 or 5 years. The bottom line is, I'm not worried about the long term, because me personally, I'm the type of person, I put my money into certain things, and I'll probably never sell. I'll probably give my stock market portfolios to my kids. I'll probably, all my shit, my Exo Squad figures, all my Hess trucks, all that shit, I'll probably just give that stuff right to my kids, and I'll never even use it. I'll be like, well, yeah, I collected all this shit growing up, but, I don't need it no more. So, because I'm old, and I'm on Social Security, and I'm living in Philippines or Thailand with some young wife. That's your mom right there. Some young wife rubbing coconut oil up and down my back. And that's how I intend to spend my retirement. Some of these people, they want to keep working until they die. I ain't doing none of that shit. I will be right there on a beach in Cebu or Phnom Penh or whatever it is, and there'll be some young chick rubbing coconut oil up and down my ass cheeks, and I'll be getting massaged. That'll be all I do. Let me tell you something, I have no aspirations at all. At all. All I want to do, because they might screw up Social Security. But as long as I got my pension, I'll go to one of these other countries. I'll live like a king. And I'll just send pictures back here. Maybe even, who knows, maybe YouTube will exist then. Maybe it won't when I retire. But I'll be sending YouTube videos back here, and there'll be nothing but me just laying down, getting my back rubbed with coconut juice and buko oils and all types of stuff. And you'll be like, damn, when I retire, I want to do that. And that's it. But we'll have to see. So all I'm saying is, what is it? What's the other thing? It says, we're really thinking about this as a bit of an endless environment in terms of direction. And that's in particular because we just don't know where tariffs end up, said Robert Hayworth, senior investment strategist at U.S. Bank. In an interview with CNBC, this is a market trying to get clarity on direction and not getting a lot of conclusions. Hayworth added, if uncertainty continues for an extended period of time, meaning multiple quarters, I think that becomes more challenging for corporate earnings and decision-making. Oh, you think? And we've seen some of that in the earnings season so far. So basically, Trump has had 2 terms thus far. And in both of his terms, the economy has absolutely crashed. One was COVID. What did I say before? As Trump's economy was going great for the first 3 years. When I got online into that manosphere nonsense that they don't even really exist anymore. Them dudes have scurried back into their little hidey holes like little mice. Everybody was called me an idiot. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Trump's going to win again. You don't know what you're talking. And I was like, listen, guys, his economy is about to turn upside down. Now, I didn't know why, and I didn't know exactly what's going to happen. But I did know that the Democrats were going to do whatever it took to get him up out of there. And they didn't believe me. So I kept up, and eventually COVID hit. China, as soon as Trump messed with China, COVID hit. And everything was going fine. What did they do? COVID hit. And then Trump and the Congress started that HFCAA, the Holding Foreign Countries Accountable Act, right? We ain't never been the same since. Now, this dude got back into office, and within the first 200 days, within the first year, he's back on China. Tell me, everybody, using objective measurements, how's that going? Exactly. So that's all I really had to say. Because I do these Marketwatch videos. Like, I'm doing them more and more. Because the problem is things are swinging so quick until you got to do more and more. You don't have a choice because it's like things are happening so fast. It's like, you have no idea what's happening. You have no idea what's going on. But the bottom line is, what am I doing? I'm saving money. I'm setting aside money. I've already done my investment for the year. $10,000. I bought the banks while they were down, credit card stocks while they were down. I split it up. I diversified. And I had already talked about this part in another video, but I'd put $10,000 into this down market. And I'm not going to invest anything more for the rest of the year. Most of those stocks, pretty much all of them, were dividend-paying stocks. So I'm building up my dividend-paying platform. My portfolio is paying dividends. And when I collect dividend money, do I spend it on Birkin bags and Tory Burch and stupid shit? No, the answer is no. What I do is I take those dividends and I reinvest them into more stock. More dividend-paying stock. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Like some people would like to go out and buy solid gold jewelry and rims and stupid shit. But no, I don't do that. So that's what I'm doing. What else am I doing? I actually just decided to get serious about a second, because I have a savings account, I have a checking account, and then I have another savings account. So what I did was I started putting some money aside for another savings account. And it was easy because I'm using Apple Savings to do it. So I have different banks. I got, Wells Fargo, Capital One. So now I started using Apple Savings, and the reason why is because on like iPhone and Apple, if you have the Apple card and you apply for Apple Savings, that's what Goldman Sachs Bank, they pay you, it's like between 4 and 5% interest. So I say, okay, so this is a high interest savings. So what I'll do is I'll get serious. I'll start putting more money into this. So I decided that that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start saving more money each month into this account. And the only expenditures that I'm thinking about spending this year is obviously probably iPhone 17. And I was going to buy one of those Alienware or Area 51 computers, but I can wait till Black Friday because my computer, I'm using it right now, works fine. And other than that, I was thinking about going on vacation probably to Vietnam. And if I go to Vietnam, I'm definitely also going to go to Cambodia since it's right next door to each other. So I would go to Ho Chi Minh City and Phnom Penh, however you pronounce that. Phnom Penh, whatever. But that's all I'm planning to do. So you got to decide what you're going to do, because with this tariff bullshit, 90 days from now, whatever it is, 80 days from now, you have no idea what's coming. So my recommendation, if there's any electronics that you know that you need that are in small supply, that might go up in price or might go out of stock, you might want to be buying those now. As soon as I saw Costco with those air conditioners, I bought 4 of them. That came out to damn near $2,000. What else? Is there anything else that I bought? I bought some electronics, but they're not really worth talking about. But that's what you got to do. You basically got to make a decision, and you better make that decision quick.
If he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest planes, the best factories, and we have to make our core be empowered. We have to bring jobs into America, because our best export is entertainment and ideas. But when we make everything in China and not in America, then we're cheating on our country. And we're putting people in positions to have to do illegal things to end up in the cheapest factory ever, the prison system.
I'll tell you what, that was pretty impressive. I hate to say this, Jim. Do you want to say something?